Hi again, this is Mr. Teal coming at you. Today is September 17th. This is a video for today's lesson for those people that are either absent or people that need some extra help. So I'm going to go ahead and go through today's PowerPoint with you, kind of show you what's going on with it, and we'll kind of show you what today's homework looks like. So for the self-start today, if you have not already done so, please pause it, and based off of what you know from yesterday, let's see what you can do. Okay, hopefully you've paused it. Hopefully you've done the 3 problems for the self-start. First one says model using integer chips. So integer chips are the plus and minus signs that kind of help us find zero pairs. So first thing I do when I see this problem is I see 4 minus 5. So yesterday, you were given a special superpower that allows you to change subtraction problems into addition problems. But we have to remember that there's always a consequence that follows. And that consequence is that the number next to it has to change to the opposite. So I'm going to use my superpower on this problem. Now my consequence follows, so that positive 5 becomes a negative 5. So now I have a 7th grade addition problem, 4 plus a negative 5. So there's 4 positives, so I'm going to go ahead and draw those, and 5 negatives. Okay, so I'm going to start taking care of my zero pairs, and that's going to give me 1 negative, so my answer is going to be a negative 1. Second question says model using integer chips, so we're going to do kind of the same model that we did up here. So first thing I'm going to do is see this problem, say negative 2 minus 3. So it is a subtraction problem. So we need to remember to use our superpower. But because we use our superpower, there's always that consequence that follows. So that 3 has to go from a positive to a negative. So now I have a problem that says negative 2 plus a negative 3. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my my 2 negatives and then my 3 negatives. I don't have any positives that I can pair with a negative to cancel things out. So all I'm going to do is just count the total number of negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my answer is going to be negative 5. Third one says model on a number line. I earned $6 and spent $1. So there's my 0. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I earned $6, that's going to be positive. So that's going to mean that I'm going to go 6 jumps in the positive direction. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. If I spent $1, that's going to mean that how much money I have went down. So that's going to be a negative. So I'm going to jump 1 place in this direction, and I'm going to end up at 5. So my answer for this problem would be 5, or you could say I have $5 left. Okay, so there's today's deep thought. You're welcome to pause it and read it if you so desire. Just some information about class. We are taking our first feedback tomorrow, which is Friday. It's going to include questions of adding integers with the tiles or the number line, subtracting integers with tiles and number lines, and multiplying and dividing integers with tiles and number line. We're going to be covering this today. That's going to be today's lesson. If you feel like you need more practice or need some extra help, please feel free to email me and ask me, or we'll have a review session tomorrow as well. But please, if you have any questions, feel free to email your teacher. So for today, we've already done the self-start, so we're going to start getting into the rules of multiplying and dividing integers. A lot of you have already heard from 6th grade some of the rules. If you have, that's great. We'll clear some things up, some misconceptions. If you haven't, this is going to be new, so here we go. So, multiplication. You've been taught since, I don't know, about 2nd or 3rd grade, probably 3rd grade, about multiplying numbers. So you were taught that when you multiply, it's basically just like this. So 3 times 2 just means that you take 2 and add it 3 times. You get 6. Or it means that you could group 3 groups of 2. So let's do this. Three groups of 2. 1, 2, 3. There's 1, there's 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Or you could use a number line. 1, 2, 3, 4. It means you skip 2 numbers 3 times. Skip that number, skip that number, skip that number. Any way you look at it, you're going to get an answer of 6. Well, multiplying integers kind of works in the exact same thing. So if I have a problem of 3 plus a negative 2, that's just like saying I'm going to add negative 2 3 times. Negative 2 plus negative 2 plus negative 2 equals a negative 6. I could group 3 groups of negative 2. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put 2 negatives in each one. And then that's going to give me a total of 6 negatives. You could use a number line and do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can skip negative 2 numbers 3 times. So I'm going to skip 2 numbers in the negative direction. 1, 2, 3. And I end up at a negative 6. So some of the rules that we're going to follow will come up. So if you have any questions about that, just be patient. But let's try this one. Using integer chips. So I'm going to use those plus and minus signs. Model the following. So 5 times a negative 4. What this is saying is I need 5 groups of negative 4. So I'm going to draw 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to put 4 negatives in each one. Almost looks like smiley faces. Okay, so there's my 5 groups of 4 negatives. So now at this point, all I do is just count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So my answer is going to be I have 20 negatives, or a negative 20. If I were to do this on a number line, it just means that I would make 5 jumps of negative 4. But we'll cover that a little bit later. But here's the problem. What happens, though, if we have 2 negative numbers? You can't really have negative 3 groups. So this one's a little bit more complex. So have you ever heard the saying, 2 wrongs don't make a right? Well, with integers, when you multiply them, 2 negatives do make a positive. So it's like a double negative. It's saying, I'm not going to do my homework. Or it's saying, I'm not in school right now. Or I'm not listening to Mr. Teal talk. So they just basically cancel each other out because it's the opposite of the opposite. I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but just go with me on this. So, based off those rules, let's take a look, okay? So I have a negative 4 times 6. So that's going to, you could also switch the order and say 6 groups of negative 4. But when I look at that, I think, okay, so I have 1 negative. So I'm letting you think. Okay, so hopefully you had time to think about it. So a negative 4 times 26. 4 times 6 is 24. We have a negative, so we got to remember that. 4 times 6 is 24. That's a positive. I don't see any negatives. 4 times a negative 6, well, that's kind of the same thing as up here. 4 groups of 6 negatives. So my answer is going to be a negative 24 as well. Okay, here's the double negative. Negative times a negative. So hopefully you remember that those kind of cancel out. And you just have a positive 24. So now this problem down here is a little bit more complex because I have 3 terms. So I have a negative 4 times a negative 6 times 2. Well, there's my double negative right there. So those are going to cancel out. So then 4 times 6 is 24, times 2, that's 48. But what about this one? There's 3 negatives. These two can cancel out, but then I still have one more negative. So because I have one negative left, my answer is going to be negative. And then when I multiply them, I get 48. So my answer is a negative 48. So here's kind of the point that we're trying to drive home. If there are an odd number of negatives, your answer is going to be negative. If there's an even number of negatives, my answer will be positive. So for example, an odd number. So if there's 1 negative or 3 negatives or 5 negatives or 7 negatives or 9 negatives, then your answer is always going to be negative. If you have an even number like 2 negatives or 4 negatives or 6 negatives, your answer is going to be positive. So think about this problem. If I have a negative 2 times 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 negative 2, is your answer going to be positive or negative? Give you a moment to think. Okay, so let's say I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 negatives. 8 is an even number, so hopefully you had a chance to say that your answer is going to be positive. How about this one? Give you a moment to think. One negative, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in this case, there's 7 negatives. 7's an odd number, so my answer is going to be a negative. How about this one? Give you a moment to think. One negative, 2 negatives, 3 negatives, 4 negatives. 4 is an even number. My answer is going to be positive. So at this point in time, the best thing for you to do to get some extra practice with this is to do the integer table that is included on Canvas. So the integer table is going to look like this. So you're welcome to print this off. Make sure to answer the first couple questions. When I multiply two positives, is your answer going to be positive or negative? So we have to think, 2 positives. Question 2, when I multiply 2 negatives, what's your answer going to be? And when I multiply 1 positive and 1 negative, what will your answer be? And then just fill in this table. So you would do negative 5 times 5, negative 5 times 4, negative 5 times 3, negative 5 times 2, so on and so forth, and then just keep on going that direction. So go ahead and hit pause on the video while you go ahead and do this, just to get some practice with. So go ahead and hit pause now. Okay, welcome back. So dividing integers, people tend to get kind of scared on this one because, oh no, it's division. I'm not very good at division. Well, keep an open mindset because you're really going to find it's not too bad. Dividing is just the opposite of multiplying. So the same rules are going to apply with division as they would with multiplication. So dividing 2 positives, answer is positive. Dividing 2 negatives, the answer is positive because 2 is an even number. 1 positive, 1 negative, because it's only 1 negative, that's an odd number, your answer is going to be negative. So I don't see any I don't see any negatives in this one. My answer is positive. I see 1 negative. 1 is an odd number, so my answer is going to be a negative. Right here, I see 2 negatives. 2 is an even number, so my answer is going to be positive. And I see 1 negative in this one, so my answer will be negative because 1's an odd number. So what about something like this? Something huge. Well, if I'm looking at this problem, I see a negative here, and that's it. I don't see any other negatives. So 1's an odd number, so hopefully you've thought to yourself already that my answer is going to be negative. How about this one? moment to think. Hopefully you counted those negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4. Your answer is going to be positive because 4 is an even number. Well, what about this one then? Give me a moment to think while I circle that one. There's another one. There's another one. There's 3 negative signs. So therefore, 3 is an odd number. My answer is going to be negative. So that kind of walks us through our presentation. So all of that can be found on the PowerPoint, same place you found the video, along with all the homework. Today's homework, you're just going to go through. Don't use a calculator on these. Try your best to, just think about the problem. So first thing that I would personally do when I'm looking at the homework is look at the negatives. So on this one, I only see one negative sign. So I have to remember, put my negative, and then just do 12 divided by 4, which is 3. So do all of those things for multiplication division up here. Down here, you just have to answer based off of the rules we learned. Is the answer positive or negative? You don't have to solve them. You're just going to write whether your answer is positive or negative over here. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, guys. Have a great day. Miss you. See you soon.